President Donald Trump's day started with a tweet, as usual, and ended with the cancellation of a planned meeting with the Mexican president. Trump challenged Enrique Pena Nieto to pay for the border wall or call off their talks, and Pena Nieto took him at his word. But while addressing Republicans at their annual policy retreat in Philadelphia, Trump said they had agreed not to meet. Now, we'll get to that in a minute, but first, here's what Trump had to say about trade.
There won't be a whole big mash pot. There'll be one-on-one deals, and if that particular country doesn't treat us fairly, we send them a 30-day termination, notice of termination. And then they'll come and say, please don't do that, and we'll negotiate a better deal during that 30-day period. The other way, you can't get out of it. It's like quicksand. Plus, we're going to have very, very strong controls over monetary manipulation and devaluation, which they didn't have in TPP. So this is going to be so much better.
Well, Harry Horton is in Philadelphia and joins us now live. Hello to you, Harry. So we spoke a lot about trade and ripping up some of those deals. What issues stuck out for you?
Well, I think Donald Trump was trying to sell his agenda to the Republican members of Congress here. You've got to remember that Donald Trump's plans for the future of America aren't exactly in line with Republicans in Congress. So Donald Trump talked through the actions he's taken so far this week to restore the building of the Keystone XL pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline. That was met with much applause from the audience there. He talked about removing regulations and reinstating the Mexico City policy to stop the United States funding abortions abroad. On trade, he talked about pursuing one-on-one trade deals and said that he didn't want to follow current trade deals, which are a whole big mash pot, as he put it. That will take some convincing, I think, for the Republicans in Congress to get behind, because, as I say, that's a very different philosophical way of doing trade deals to what they have in mind. But Donald Trump clearly making an effort to get the Republicans in Congress on his side so he can move ahead with his agenda as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, and creating a new word in mash pot, Harry. Now, you mentioned that it will have to go some way to try and get the party on side. Do you think he went far enough with some of the things he announced just earlier?
Well, speaking to Republicans who've been at that conference this week, the reports suggest that they've been fairly confused about the messages coming out of the White House this week. They want to concentrate on things like healthcare reform. How are they going to repeal and replace Obamacare like they've long promised to do? They want to talk about new tax policies in the United States. And yet the messages from the White House this week have been about possibly bringing back torture to the United States. Those aren't the sorts of messages that Republicans in Congress want to be hearing from the White House. Donald Trump clearly trying to sell his plans today. He talked a lot about infrastructure spending as well. That's something that the Republicans in Congress are less keen to do than him. So, you know, the reception from Republicans, from what we could hear, seemed to be a warm reception to what Donald Trump was suggesting. We didn't hear anything new from the president today. Whether or not that address by President Trump is enough to convince those Republicans in Congress that they can get on board with his agenda and work together to push this Trump administration's policies forward, I think we'll find out in the next few days.
Absolutely. Okay, Harry, for now, thank you.